Well, good afternoon. Greetings from Medgar College, a college birthed out of the Central Brooklyn community with social justice in its DNA, named for the slain civil rights leader Medgar Wiley Evers. We are honored to host Mayor Eric Adams for this groundbreaking announcement about cannabis, of which Medgar is a leader in this city for cannabis education. Launched in the fall of 2021, thanks to Dr. Alicia Reed and Dr. Michael Crump, Medgar College is the first institution in CUNY to offer a degree minor in cannabis education. Some notable outcomes over this past year include, and this is major, 3 cannabis students earned the Best of Show in a competitive 2022 National Science Foundation I-Corps program in which they were accepted. A Cannabis community education event was hosted by the Chemistry and Environmental Science Department that brought together some 400 attendees, including cannabis influencers, cannabis experts, faculty, community members, fledgling cannabis businesses, and government officials. MEC faculty have presented in cannabis presentations in Brooklyn, Manhattan, the Bronx, and in Albany. And we have been contacted by organizations from other states regarding partnerships. We are thankful to Mayor Adams for his continued support of Medgar College. Please welcome to the podium New York City's 110th Mayor, Mayor Eric Adams.
Thank you, President. Good to see you. And Medgar Evers is the joint. This is one of my most popular colleges in our CUNY system. I'm fighting as a state senator to give it its 4-year status, and some of the great leaders that have not only taught here, but that have emerged from here to do great things here on Bedford Avenue. It has been an anchor for the development of this community, and it really caters the educational opportunities based on its student body. And I'm sure the borough president, Antonio Reynoso, would tell you about how many great things happen here in this space. We have entertained world leaders, we have had major conferences, and we are on the cutting edge of moving the student body forward. And nothing personifies that more than this conversation around cannabis. It is a way to light up our economy and launch Cannabis NYC, something that Commissioner Kim is extremely excited about. The economic opportunities are amazing. And what we are announcing here today is the first of its kind initiative to support the equitable growth of the cannabis industry in New York City by doing it here in Medgar College. If you were to do an analysis of the greatest number of individuals and students who were impacted negatively by an extremely aggressive law enforcement fighting of cannabis, you will find that many of the students were here. They came through this institution, and now to be on the cutting edge, a part of the economic opportunities, it says a lot. And let's be clear, what we're doing here is promise made, promise kept. We made the promise that we were going to use this law to reinvest in those who were justice involved, and that's what we're doing. We're creating the nation's most equitable cannabis industry is part of the blueprint for economic recovery. We have witnessed across the country, states and cities that are getting it wrong, and we are not going to make those same mistakes here. Today, we're planting the seeds for the economic growth and the economy of tomorrow. The regulated adult use cannabis industry is a once-in-a-generation chance for underserved communities, especially Black and brown communities, to be a part of this new industry here in our city. For too long, these communities have faced high rates of drug related incarcerations, and they have been denied opportunities to build wealth. That's a terrible combination, and today we're dismantling that combination. Now they have a chance to get in the industry and from the ground up be part of the development of this industry. Cannabis NYC, a brainchild of our commissioner, will help New Yorkers apply for licenses and understand how to open and successfully run a business. We will work with our state and local partners to make this happen, and applications to the State Office of Cannabis Management for adult use retail dispensary licenses open this Thursday, August 25th. We want to have a major role in assisting in that opening. New Yorkers can call 888-SBS-4NYC or visit www.nyc.gov/cannabis to get the information they're looking for. These licenses will go to New Yorkers who were directly impacted by the war on drugs, who have run successful businesses in the past. It's about setting the foundation of equity and giving those who have been justice involved, those with a cannabis conviction, a chance to succeed. We're going back and reaching out to those who were impacted by this in many ways. We're not just saying, let's move forward. We need to go back to make people whole. You could be a young man who was jailed for drug possession, or a mother who needs work, a second job, or want to start her own business. Cannabis NYC is here to help you, and we're going to get the message out loudly and clearly. And this is about creating jobs, successful small businesses, and bringing equity for communities that were harmed by criminalization for many, many years. And when you think about the dollars, we're not talking about small numbers. This industry is predicted to have $1.3 billion in sales by 2023, and jobs, 19,000 to 24,000 jobs created over the next 3 years. This is an exciting moment to make sure that everyone is part of this industry. And this is just at the beginning. Cannabis NYC in the coming months will be expanding services as more licenses come online, and we will help support and service those who are looking to go into this business, including no-cost training on how to operate a successful business. Because we don't want the dreams, the aspirations of those who want to go in this industry to go up in smoke. We want it to be firm, solid, get the foundation. Running a business is hard, and it becomes easier when you have a neighborhood college that has a Welcome Act to give you all the support that you deserve to ensure your business is a success. We're excited about this. I want to thank all those who are involved, particularly our amazing board president, Councilman Riley, the commissioner, and the president of this great institution for allowing us to use this as a moment to uplift people, something that Ms. Rice, Arva Rice, has fought for years with the Urban League, is the coming together of all the entities to make government work and to get stuff done. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor Adams, for your leadership to allow today's historic announcement to be created. So thank you again. Thank you, Dr. Ramsey and Medgar Evers, for hosting us in this beautiful space. I want to also acknowledge Borough President Antonio Reynoso and Councilmember Kevin Riley, who have been great partners to SBS. Thank you for joining us. And also to all the advocates here, welcome and thank you again for joining us as well. Social equity is always at the center of our work at the New York City Department of Small Business Services, and it is at the heart of the city's approach to the emerging regulated cannabis industry. That's why, ahead of the state's first retail application opening this Thursday, we are proud to announce today the launch of Cannabis NYC with the city's first ever services, all at no cost and in multiple languages, to help aspiring, justice-involved entrepreneurs apply for the state's first retail license. By awarding retail licenses in this first round only to justice-involved applicants, the state is ensuring that the roots of this industry are based in equity. And the city is proud to partner closely with the state to achieve this shared goal. So our message today is very, very clear. If you or a close family member had a marijuana arrest or conviction before March 31st, 2021, and you've been an owner or a partial owner of a profitable business for 2 years or more, you may be eligible to apply for this first round of licenses. SBS is here to help assess your eligibility and provide one-on-one assistance in completing your application. And this is only the beginning, because applying for a license and even getting a license is just the first step. From trainings on how to operate a successful business to educational webinars and resources and help with applications on future license categories, please turn to SBS. Our Cannabis NYC initiative will continue to grow with one of its main goals to help New Yorkers who have been involved in the unregulated cannabis industry for many, many years transition into the licensed market that will lift up communities throughout our city. We know that New York City has a moral and economic responsibility to support this industry's equitable growth. So please, as the mayor said, call our SBS hotline at 888-SBS, the number 4, NYC, or visit nyc.gov/cannabis to get started. Thank you very much. And now, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Arva Rice. As president and CEO of the New York Urban League, Ms. Rice has been at the helm of an organization that has supported the city's African American community in pursuit of economic and social justice for over 100 years. And we have been fortunate to benefit from her counsel in standing up an equitable cannabis industry in New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Arva Rice.
Thank you. Thank you, Medgar Evers President, Patricia Ramsey, for hosting us this morning and for your college's commitment to ensuring our communities receive the training and support to participate in the cannabis business. Thank you, Mayor Adams, for your courageous leadership on this issue locally and nationally. We appreciate your acceptance of the challenge for New Yorkers to lead the way in ensuring an equitable implementation of cannabis legislation. And thank you, Small Business Commissioner Kevin Kim. The work you are taking on will have a generational impact on our communities and on our city. I know that with the support of our great mayor, you are more than up to the task, and the New York Urban League stands ready to support you in this important work. As stated, I am Arva Rice, and I have the privilege of serving as president and CEO of the New York Urban League. For over 100 years, the New York Urban League has led the way in the education, employment, and empowerment of underserved African Americans across the 5 boroughs. During this time, we are proud to have inspired, influenced, and ignited over 1 million Black people to achieve their highest aspirations. At our core, we believe that inequality is unacceptable. Nowhere has inequality reared its ugly head more than in the justice system around cannabis. As a result, I am pleased to stand before you today in support of the city's initiative. Everyone gathered here today knows the disproportionate impact that marijuana enforcement has had in Black and brown communities. Arrests, convictions, and incarcerations result in time away from family, school, career, business, and more. This has generational consequences. In 2018, a Pew Research study of the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program found that 40% of U.S. drug arrests in 2018 were for possession, sale, or manufacture of marijuana. In July 2017, the Drug Policy Alliance and Marijuana Arrest Research Project found that Black and Latino people accounted for 86% of all marijuana arrests, while whites and others stopped accounted for just 14% of marijuana arrests. The result of these arrests have lifelong impacts on unemployment and earning potential. The rates of employment following incarceration for Black women were 43.6% and 35.2% for men, which was much higher than their white counterparts. And so, in the words of our mayor, New York City, the greatest city in the world, must get this right. The New York Urban League applauds the creation of Cannabis Nyc. As the commissioner stated, Cannabis Nyc will uniquely work with industry stakeholders to create good jobs, successful small businesses, and sustainable economic opportunities. And yet we know that this work is just the beginning, because the change in the legislation has overlapping impacts on social equity, community reinvestment, criminal justice, public health, product safety, and quality control. We must work locally, at the state level, and the federal level to ensure that there is the incentive, infrastructure, and influence so that our Black brothers and sisters not only have a seat at the table, but know the forks and knives to use in order to access capital and ultimately be successful. Thank you, Mayor Adams, for this important initiative. Thank you, President Ramsey, for creating and implementing this effort. The New York Urban League, along with our partners, the National Urban League, National Action Network, and NAACP, are poised and ready to assist your efforts, hold you accountable, and join in the celebration when the New York City leads the nation in getting this right for our communities. Thank you.
I want to bring on two of our partners, both Councilman Riley and Borough President Antonio Reynoso. Borough President, and then we turn it up to the Councilman.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome home, as usual, to the center of the universe that is Brooklyn, New York, first and foremost. And at the center of the universe is this amazing and incredible educational institution run by President Dr. Ramsey. I want to thank you for the great work you do here at Medgar Evers, including being smart enough to start a cannabis program here in this school when other folks didn't see it as a potential. But we want to talk about this being an emerging market of great proportions. I don't think the city of New York has seen this type of market coming in. And what ends up happening with these types of emerging markets is that non-traditional players usually get left out exclusively. And for a lot of people, they might not understand why the layers of work that we need to be doing to ensure equity into this work. Why put so much effort? Why have the mayor stand here and implement all these resources and all this initiative alongside Medgar Evers? Is because, again, non-traditional players are usually left out. And that is what we're trying to change here. We're talking about billions of dollars and countless jobs. And if we're not at the center of it before the market enters the city of New York, then we will continuously be left out, and that would be unacceptable. So I know for some folks, they might not know the impact of the initiative that we're presenting today, that the mayor is presenting today, but what it will mean for Black and brown people that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on crime, the war on drugs. They will see that in the fruit of our labor decades down the line when we've brought in an entire community, an entire generation into economic potential, economic delivery that we haven't seen in quite some time. Also, Ms. Rice has talked about the disparities between arrests between Latino and Black, mostly men, impoverished men, versus their white counterparts. But what is important to those statistics is that foundationally, we have to be very clear that white people and Black and brown people smoke weed at the exact same rate. I want to be very clear, use marijuana at the exact same rate. It's important to note that because there is equity in use, but there isn't equity in arrest. And without that, I think it gets layered on. People are continually saying that we're justifying the, what I liked Commissioner Kim said, the unregulated market. The unregulated market versus the illegal market of drug use. It's like very important that we note that because it was not illegal for a bunch of people, or very clearly white affluent people can smoke weed without regard, and it wasn't a concern. So the unregulated conversation is great. But again, we want to make sure we do right by the people that have been most affected, and the only way to do that is by stepping up, and that is what our mayor is doing today. And I wanted to be here with him, front and center in his borough of Brooklyn, making sure that you know that we're paying attention and we're going to do right by our people. So thank you so much, and don't forget to spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having me here today. I came all the way from the Bronx. Long ride, but this is an important conversation because we're talking about economic empowerment. We're talking about equity and empowerment, which we're trying to bring to our communities of color. My family was jeopardized by the war on drugs. I lost my father to the prison system because of war on drugs, and that's why I got into office, because I wanted to make sure that we're addressing these concerns. And when I had this conversation with the mayor a few months ago, he stated that this is an opportunity for New York City to do an amazing job with the cannabis market when it comes into our city. So you kept your promise, Mr. Mayor. I'm here to support you in any way I can. Thank you, Commissioner Kim, for having me. I'm looking forward to getting this initiative done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Mayor. It's the afternoon, sorry, I'm good, thanks. So I wanted to ask, and I understand it's the state's regulations, but a colleague of mine had done a story months ago where she spoke to experts, and unfortunately, the kind of Venn diagram of people who are justice, who were previously justice involved for marijuana convictions, and also have that 2 years of business experience, it's very small given the limitations that they had because they had prior convictions. To get the financial backing and to open up a business can be very difficult for people who have prior convictions. So can the city do anything, I don't know if SBS can do anything, to ensure that people who were working in what was then an illegal market but will now be legal can still have an opportunity to legalize what they've been doing and what they've been experts at for years?
Yeah, and the commissioner could state that, but anyone who has run a small business would tell you that operating a small business where you have to pay a high level of insurance, a high level of utility costs, a high level of bookkeeping is really different from running your business as a street corner pharmaceutical expert. It's a different business. And if we set people up for failure, then we are doing an injustice. And that's not what we're going to do. When you run a legal business, there are many things you need to be aware of, and that's why we're doing this partnership with the college so people can get the basic understanding of how to run a legal business. Commissioner?
Thank you for that question. I think what's most important to note today is that this first round of applications is just that. There are 9 total licenses that the state is issuing, and the cultivation and the processing licenses have been issued, but there are other licenses, on-site consumption, delivery, microprocessing, and so on, that will be open to every New Yorker. So this is just specifically involved, and the reason why I noted that only justice-involved people would be eligible for this is that many other states who've gone through this process did not really intentionally put social equity at the forefront like New York State has. And that's why for us here at New York City, partnering with the state to achieve that social equity goal is really important to note. This is just for the first round. It's approximately 150 or so that they're aiming for. But then soon thereafter, there will be other licenses that will be open to all New Yorkers. And the final point is that there are a lot of businesses that are going to be formed that don't touch the plant, that have nothing to do with growing or selling marijuana. There's security, there's accounting, and there's delivery and whatnot. So what we are doing at SBS is preparing them to, as the mayor said, be ready to open up businesses, successful businesses, no matter what shape or form, that will be still part of the cannabis industry, but not necessarily touch the plant.
Why don't you say that? They may have more for you.
Oh, sure.
Any other on topic?
Yes.
Yeah, Vanessa, go.
Can you clarify, the 9, is that for the city only?
No, that is the state. So this is all state-issued licenses, and there'll be 9 license categories.
Can you just explain a little bit more the relationship with Medgar Evers and how it's going to work with this program?
Well, Medgar Evers is just a very important part of our New York City infrastructure. As you know, the CUNY system as a whole is as well. And so the education program that they set up has been instrumental in getting New Yorkers educated and understanding what the opportunities are. And so this is just a continuation of that. I think the state has also invested in Lehman College and Queens College, 2 other CUNY institutions, so that we are going to be poised well here in New York City to be able to do the proper outreach and education to make sure everybody who wants to participate in this emerging market can.
And this is a new industry. And when you start a new industry, people need to know all the components of the industry. You know, not all of it is, as the commissioner stated, is selling or growing. There's an entire industry that is starting in this city for the first time. And it is imperative to have these on-ramp to these industries, and CUNY is the best way to do it, particularly when you're talking about diversity among the student body and teaching each part of the industry. So now you have students that are coming in and they're saying, we're hearing this about this cannabis. What are the job and career and ownership possibilities? Medgar Evers and CUNY is going to be providing that. This is a very important partnership because we're going to be helping with the curriculum. We're going to be helping modify as the law changes. People need to be aware of that. This partnership is crucial.
Thank you. On the enforcement side of things, once the legal market actually launches, once businesses are up and running, can you go into a little bit on how enforcement against illicit sellers will work at that point? Will it be stepped up in order to make sure there isn't illegal sales, or how will that look?
You can never have a legal market with an illegal market. They can't go together. We're not going to have the heavy-handed policing that you witnessed in the past, where someone has a joint in their pockets and we all of a sudden going to tell them to put it in public. Now we're arresting them from public view. That is not happening. We're not going back to that. But we're not going to allow trucks to be on our streets openly selling marijuana, coming from out of the city, selling marijuana on our streets, not paying taxes, not abiding by the rules, and you don't even know what the product is. We're finding that some product now is being laced with fentanyl. We have to be extremely careful what our citizens are consuming. And you can't have local bodegas selling these products. We must make sure that it is regulated and safe, that people are actually getting what they're paying for. And those who openly violate or those who are shipped in large quantities here, they are breaking the law. And we're not going to allow that to happen while we have a legal market. Okay, folks, let me do this. Let me do this. How's the baby? Good. Yes. Good evening. Lisa, what's happening? No, we're doing off.
Mr. Mayor, last week we did a story about a drug den that had taken over a Chelsea neighborhood, a lot of quality of life concerns from people, everything from drug paraphernalia, drug use on the streets, in front of a school, people who had substance abuse issues actually pooping, I don't know any other way to say it, on their front doorsteps, in front of the school, all over the place. Police told us basically they tried to do what they could, but their hands are tied. What do you say to New Yorkers? We've been getting a flood of response from communities all over the city, residents saying these quality of life crimes are really making them consider moving out of New York.
We saw that story, and that was a good story, and I do not subscribe to the theory that one's hands are tied when it comes down to quality of life issues. You see what we're doing with ATVs, paper plates, license plates, and all others. I'm a big quality of life person. Met with our team over the weekend, zooming in on this. We are extremely forthright with it. But you know, Lisa, we need our partners. Laws are being put in place, everything from decriminalizing public urination. That's just unacceptable. And so we can't have this duality where we're asking the police to deal with quality of life issues, and then on another end, we're decriminalizing those quality of life issues. We have to be on one message. As we rolled out our encampment policies, you saw the attacks we received when people said people should be able to live in encampments on subway system. They should be able to live in encampments on streets. So we are ignoring that because I know what everyday New Yorkers want. They want a safe, clean city, and I'm not going to accept the police department, our police department, saying their hands are tied. We're looking at that particular incident, and we're looking at other incidents where we're seeing quality of life problems.
You've talked about the state assembly's role in changing the laws. They're not even scheduled to be back in session until January. But a lot of people feel that this is a crisis that's accelerating, and their concerns now with school opening in a couple of weeks and kids having to walk through all of this.
Oh, you know, what's beyond my control, we are controlling. What's outside my span of control, I can't, really speak on. I think our lawmakers, our judges, our prosecutors, everyone who is a part of the criminal justice system, they have a role. Record number of arrests for violent actions, record number of arrests for guns, decrease in shootings, decrease in homicides, zeroing in on those predatory crime. The police department is doing their job, and it's clear. Now everyone else needs to be playing off the same playbook that New Yorkers are expecting us to play off. I don't believe we are. I said this over and over again. We are passing laws to protect people who commit crimes. When do we start passing laws that protect people who are the victims of crimes?
Okay. In the Senate primaries tomorrow, you have endorsed about a dozen people, mostly moderate candidates running against progressives. The question is why, and what are you trying to accomplish?
Exactly what Lisa just said. I want people in Albany that understand the prerequisite to prosperity is public safety and justice. As you said, moderate, not conservative. I want people that know they're aware of how to have that balance. I think that there's some people in Albany that really are not identifying the reality that is playing out on our streets. I hear the public every day. I watch them when I'm on the subway system. I know they're tired of someone punching someone in the face, having them in critical condition, and then the person who punched them on parole walks out. Something is wrong with that. And I need people in Albany that they believe, like I do, we need to protect innocent New Yorkers.
Congressional primaries are likely to result in a loss of power and experience in the New York delegation. Are you worried about it? Some say it will make it more difficult to get what you want done from Washington.
I think we have some great congressional lawmakers. As you know, I endorse Hakeem Jeffries. He has been an amazing lawmaker. I believe the New York delegation has been great. Hopefully we can hold on to Congress and successfully move an agenda forward that's good for the American people. We did it during COVID. I cannot tell you enough of how much the congressional delegation helped New York City and other parts of the country. So we want the victories we need, and I'm hoping that we continue to have the right people in Washington to do it.
This is a two-part question on immigration. The latest estimate from City Hall says about 6,000 migrants have arrived in the city. Maybe 100 are arriving from Texas on bus each day. Does the city have solid numbers, and what's your administration doing to track the migrants who could be arriving through planes, other buses, other forms of transportation? The second part is how much longer can the city afford to give out benefits to these migrants, like free health insurance and housing, and the status of requests for aid from the White House?
First, the only way we are able to communicate with the number of migrants that are coming in is through the bus company. The governor of Texas is not giving any information at all, no matter how much we try to coordinate. Crisis calls on coordination. And he has been really just a person who's mean-spirited in the area of helping people in their time of need. We are going to do our moral and legal obligation. Legally, right to shelter. Whoever comes to this city, if it's day one, we are legally and morally responsible for giving them housing. When we hold events like we held through Health and Hospital over the weekend, It wasn't just for migrants, it was for anyone. If someone walked up the block and said, I needed insurance, which we have been pushing the insurance that we have through Health and Hospital. This is not new. We'll give it to them. If someone walked up with a child and said, I need a knapsack, we're not going to ask you what's your immigration status. We gave it to them. Helping people in need is part of what New York is doing. So if anyone wants to give it the spin that this was about just helping migrants, that is not true. There were backpacks giveaway all over the city for New York residents, migrants, and everyone else. It's about helping our neighbors, and that's what this administration is doing.
Is the city afford to keep doing that? Are you expecting the White House to answer your request for aid?
Well, first of all, we have no other choice, as I stated. We have a legal obligation. So it's not up to us to decide if we want to ensure people have shelter. And the partnerships we have developed with nonprofits, it's not only city dollars. You know, sometimes people think this is only city dollars. We have a host of nonprofits. Luis Miranda from the Hispanic Federation called me yesterday and said, how do we help? We have a group of seniors, the grannies, that are calling, helping out. So this is not just city dollars. When you see these items being given to people, it is not coming from the city coffers, it's coming from the countless number of nonprofits, religious groups, volunteers groups. People are chipping in to help their neighbors.
On that, sorry, you got a White House. Do you have an update on that?
We're waiting to get the dollar amount. The White House gave us the pathway to receive the assistance. We're going through the process of doing so, and we're optimistic that we're going to receive some assistance.
When you go to Osteria La Bahia for dinner, for drinks, a night, who pays? Do you pay, the city pays, and if it's you or the city, or do you get treated? Can you provide the public with the receipts?
Okay, a couple of things. You know, what's going on with the New York Times? The front page of the New York Times, breaking news, Eric likes going to restaurants. One, you had to say to yourself, let me finish my question. Let me finish. You had to say to yourself, with monkeypox, COVID, crime, economy, all of the issues going on in this city, they are writing a story that Eric goes to a restaurant that they stood out in front of. I mean, I have to ask myself, is something going on with the New York Times right now? The stories that they're writing about me, I know people write stories, you get a lot of clicks when Eric Adams' name is in it. But the front page of the New York Times talked about me going to restaurants. I pay every bill, not the city. I pay every bill. And so you say, well, why don't you give receipts? What mayor have you ever asked to get receipts for his private dinners? You can't have a rule for Eric and then a rule for everyone else. Some people allow that. I don't. I owe no one a receipt of a private dinner that I have with people in this city. And I'm not going to start being treated differently, and I won't accept that. That was a silly story. You know it was a silly story. Front page of the New York Times? Come on.
Are you conducting public affairs? Are you conducting city affairs? Are you working as mayor while you are having dinner? Because then it's not just a private dinner. You're meeting with different people and you're governing the city from a restaurant.
I'm never on private time. You know that? You know, I'm considered mayor all the time. I don't clock out at being mayor. So if I'm sitting down with my son having dinner, he's asking my opinions. If I'm sitting down with Bill de Blasio, Cuomo, friends, I mean, who doesn't have a favorite restaurant? This has to be one of the most silliest things I've ever heard. You telling me you don't have a favorite restaurant, Juan? You don't have a favorite restaurant that you go to? Everyone in here has a favorite restaurant. I have a favorite restaurant. Now, let me tell you something else that they didn't report. They didn't report when I finish my meals at the restaurant that I go in the subway system to meet the conductors and motormen and ride over them throughout the night to make sure we're doing the job we deserve. They didn't report how I go to the areas of the city to make sure what happens during the midnight hours. Because if I'm going to hang out with the boys, I'm going to get up with the men. I'm up every morning doing my job. And I have a favorite restaurant called La Baya. I have a favorite restaurant in the Bronx that's owned by Fernando Mateo. I have a favorite restaurant in Brooklyn called Sugar Hill. I have a favorite restaurant all over the city. I mean, this is so silly. They're saying that Eric goes out to restaurant. Breaking news, duh, yes I do. And I don't hide in doing it. So the reason they knew I was at La Baya, because they stood outside La Baya. I think they were too afraid to go to the South Bronx and stand outside those restaurants.
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Since we're on the topic of the New York Times story, I just wanted to
Yes.
follow up with one thing.
Yes.
In addition to La Baya, the story focused heavily on Zero Bond.
Yes.
I'm curious, that's a members-only club, right? And you're not a member.
Right.
How are you able to get in there, and who pays for that?
What happened, Chris, in many of the member-only clubs, there are many that are opening. Members-only club does not mean non-members can't come in. You go in with a guest. That's what member-only clubs say. We can bring a guest in to the club. I go in with guests, you know. Oh, come on. Come on, Chris. Listen, next thing you know, if I tell you who I go with, y'all gonna do full-page stories on them. You know, nobody's gonna want to hang out with me anymore. Because people are going to follow them, they're going to watch them, they're going to say, what are they eating? You know, I'm just blown away how people are so attractive with my life. You know, I mean, people just enjoy everything that I do. Did you see Eric's socks today? They had polka dots. That's going to be a whole full-page story. You know, y'all write these stories about me that are just, you have to look at them and laugh. You know, I have an active, lovely life. And I enjoy going out at night. I walk in the kitchen and speak to the waiters, the dishwashers, the cooks. I shake their hand. You go talk to them, and they said, we never had a mayor that stops in and asks, how are you doing? How do you feel? I get on the elevator. I speak to the elevator operator. I engage with New Yorkers. And the difference between Eric and others that have held these positions is that every New Yorker matters to me. The person that drives the limousine and the person that sits in the back of the limousine. And when you get one of the most powerful papers in the country, if not the globe, have a front page story of me going to restaurants, you know, you have to laugh about this stuff, you know. Breaking news, I like restaurants. Let me answer the sister's question because she want to ask me about school budget cuts.
That's not about
Because she's been following me around for the whole month. Yes.
Two-part question.
Yes, ma'am.
Why won't you restore the cuts to public schools by $469 million?
Okay, I don't know where you got that number from. Our schools are going to open on time. Our children are going to get the best education they have ever received before. I'm dedicated. I'm committed. I'm a public school mayor. I grew up through the public school. If I do an analysis, I'm probably one of the few that have actually gone through the public school. Our children are going to receive the quality education that they deserve. And you know what we need to be clear on that a lot of people miss? $38 billion budget, year after year after year. 65% of black and brown children, Madam President, never reach proficiency, never. But they just want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's not going to happen under my administration. We're going to get the money to our students, where they need it, and this is in the court system. The court will decide. Whatever the court decides, I'm going to respect.
Last question for Katie. We're running out.
Go ahead, Katie. Go ahead, Katie.
Back in June, I asked you about improving the New York City Lifeguard program, better supplies and that kind of thing. I know you're going to go back and talk because when you look at the city's Lifeguard program, they still use hand signals to message to each other. They don't have radios. They don't have ATVs. It's only for enforcement. So what's the update on that? I know we're nearing the end of summer, but I'm sure this is a question that we will go into the off season about how to improve things for next season to ensure we have enough lifeguards and then also to ensure that maybe they'll get into the 2023 in terms of equipment and messaging to make sure the beaches particularly are safe.
Yes, and we communicated, I thought there were some great ideas. We're looking for the next school season, next swimming season, the beach season, to make sure that we're prepared, everything from a pipeline of lifeguards to looking at some updated equipment, to ATVs, to radios. We're really looking at how we can get this better next pool season.
Have you We'll go you, Chris, next.
Chris, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Gotta
Just
wrap it up after
super
that.
quick, Mr. Mayor. Governor Hochul announced earlier today that the state is ending basically all COVID restrictions in schools. Once you come back in fall, there will be no test to stay, no mandatory quarantining if you interact with a positive student. What do you think of that decision? Do you think that's the right move ahead of fall semester?
Great question. First of all, I respect the decision of the governor. We are going to have our own approach to COVID because, you know, New York City is unique because of the dense population, but we think it's the right step in the right direction, and we're going to look at them and make the determination with our Department of Health and Mental Hygiene what we're going to do school by school to make sure that our children are protected as best as possible. But it's a step in the right direction. As I stated from the beginning, Chris, if you go back, that we had to learn to live with COVID. And I was not willing to surrender this city to COVID. We made the right decision. And the reason many people don't know about it, because we're winning. And you know, COVID has not engulfed our lives anymore, and we're moving in the right direction. We're going to continue to do so. Thank you. Good to see you all.